Fasten your seatbelts, it's going to be a bumpy night. I think that's what we're in for. The past 6 weeks truly have been a bumpy ride. It's hard to see what the goal is and the plan to reach that goal. Maybe we'll learn more at tonight's address to both houses of Congress. To help us get a handle on what's happened lately and hopefully clarify what the goal and plans are for the next 4 years, as well as give us an overview of Plan 2025 and what it proposes. Our speaker, Ed Spire, today will help us along those lines. Ed is a retired software engineer who has started and operated 2 small software companies and participated in an IPO of a large software startup, culminating in the position of Senior Director of Software Engineering for a large multinational team of engineers. In his retirement, Ed is participating in several areas of political activism and election operations. He's been most active in gun violence prevention and addressing the influence of financial pressure on our political system. Today's topic is Democracy Under Duress. Please welcome Ed Spire.
Thank you. I have a lot of slides here, and I'm only supposed to take a half an hour. So I'm going to skip some of these slides just to get to the important parts. But I've sent a copy of the deck over that can be made available to all of you. So you'll have all these slides that you can look through at your convenience. And my email address is on the first slide, ed.spire@gmail.com. If you have any questions or comments, I'd love to hear them. Send me an email. And if you know anybody else, any other groups that need to be educated about what is going on in our country today, I'd love to find other places where I can speak to people and help educate them. We're going to talk about the kind of executive orders that have been coming out of the White House. Okay, we're going to start talking about the executive. We're not going to look at all the executive orders, but we're going to talk about a few of them. We're going to talk about this Department of Government Efficiency that Elon Musk is running. We're going to talk about how that all relates to the Project 2025 and what that is. And most importantly, we're going to link that stuff together and help you understand why this is happening, what the goals are here. We'll talk about the kind of responses that we see in the judiciary, in Congress, in the market. We're seeing responses in the market today. And how bad this could get and what we can do about it. There's always a call to action. So Trump has started out with a whole bunch of executive orders that were created very quickly at the start of his term. So some of the first orders were around getting people back into the office. He issued a lot of orders about immigration and border security, to tighten up the border. There's a lot of orders to terminate all remote work, implement a federal hiring freeze, that nobody can get hired. In fact, what they said was that you might be able to hire 1 person if you fire 4. So if you get rid of 4 people, you can hire 1. They established this Department of Government Efficiency and essentially gave Musk free rein to cut costs, to cut the cost of running the federal government. He's implemented a lot of things on foreign policy. Let's see, trying to address what he considers to be unfair trade practices. A lot of issues on civil rights and gender issues. He's got this idea that diversity, equity, and inclusion is a bad thing, and that we should stop seeking to diversify. Regulatory actions, energy and environment. In fact, one of the things he says about energy and environment and about energy, people say, we elected you to get prices down. And what are you doing to get prices down? And the only thing he said that makes any glimmer of sense at all in that area is that I'm going to make energy cheaper. I'm going to make gas and electricity cheaper, and that will filter through the cost of everything. The deregulation, just getting rid of most of Biden's orders, rescinding 67 directives that Biden had put in place. And some of these things that he's rescinding are things that he implemented himself in his first term. His attitude is, if it didn't come from me, it's a bad thing. And whether it's a good thing or not, if it didn't come from me, I'm gonna get rid of it. The only thing we're gonna have. So where do these executive orders come from? Well, there's this thing called Project 2025 that we'll get into in more detail. And one of the things that Project 2025 said was that they're gonna have a whole lot of executive orders all ready to go for Trump to sign on day one. Well, that's not what happened. The executive orders that we saw coming out right away were not carefully well crafted. They had not been created months in advance, reviewed by lawyers. They were put together by Stephen Miller on the first day very rapidly, and they're full of errors. They're full of mistakes. They're very sloppy. Oftentimes one of these executive orders gets challenged in court and they say, oh, well, that's not what we mean. And they revise it in the executive order a little bit. So this stuff is being done very haphazard and very rapidly. And a lot of them are coming from Elon Musk's influence as well. So they're not well crafted. They need a lot of corrections. There's a lot of other things he's done, terminating senior FBI executives because they were involved in investigating January 6th, involved in investigating him. He wanted a list of all FBI personnel that were involved in investigating January 6th rioters. The January 6th rioters, they came from all over the country. And they went back to their homes after that day. So when the FBI is tracking them down, they're asking field officers in all cities to go find, here's this guy in your city, go find him, look into what he did. So these FBI officers from all across the country are just they're doing what they're supposed to do. They're doing their job, they're following their orders. Go find this guy. And he wants a list of all these guys, because all these guys were part of creating political prisoners, what he thinks. And another one that just came out, one of the problems with doing a presentation like this is that things happen every day. And I write some slides, and the next day there's more stuff I should put in. And the next day there's more stuff I should put in there. One of the things that he just did is he directed the FBI to give back the documents that they subpoenaed and took during their raid in Mar-a-Lago. They couldn't get them to give the documents back, so they got a search warrant. And they went in there and they found the stuff and they confiscated it, and they were going to have a big trial. They're going to put him in jail because this was a slam dunk. But he delayed, and then he won the election, and now that case is gone because he just directs the DOJ to drop the case. And he directed the FBI to give him back his stuff. And they put all the boxes on Air Force One. They flew him back down to Mar-a-Lago, and all those documents are back in his house again. So there's this thing called the Department of Government Efficiency, the DOGE boys. It was initially said there was going to be an advisory committee that would look at government and advise the president and the cabinet on how they can save some money. Well, that's not what it turned out to be at all. What it turned out to be is that they have members of the DOGE group that go into each department and tell the department, you're going to do this, that, and the other. You're going to fire these people. You're going to close these offices. You're going to cancel these contracts. And the department heads say, really? Cabinet member, am I supposed to do what the guy says? Cabinet member looks at Trump, and Trump says, yes, tell him yes. And the cabinet member says, yes, do what Elon Musk said. So Trump is empowering Elon Musk's people. I can't tell you exactly why Musk did this, but Musk just completely took apart our foreign aid thing. He said he was in Washington, and he put this out on X. He said, I find that most government employees don't work Saturday and Sunday. They work Monday through Friday. So that means I can go in there on Saturday and Sunday and do whatever I want, because the opposing team isn't even on the field Saturday and Sunday. So I spent the weekend feeding USAID into the wood chipper and just getting rid of it. He called it a criminal organization. And Rubio
Rubio was the Secretary of State. Well, first of all, USAID is one of these things they call an independent operation. Congress can create parts of the administration. Let me just say this very clearly. We do not have three co-equal branches of government: President, Congress, judiciary. No, those aren't co-equal. Congress runs this country. Congress tells the administration what they should do. Congress structures the administration. Congress creates departments like the Department of Education. Congress created the federal court system. Congress runs the country. It's not co-equal. And when Congress says, I'm going to create an agency and I want to isolate it from politics, so it's not under the direct control of the president. The president can't just fire the head. The head's going to be in there for whatever term it is, 6 years maybe. And that agency is going to do what Congress wants, and it's isolated. The Federal Reserve is a similar thing. You don't want Trump setting interest rates, because Trump will set interest rates that help him politically. You want experienced bankers and economists to set the interest rates that will be good for our economy. And they did a great job killing inflation without having a recession. They did a marvelous job. If Trump had just set the interest rates, that wouldn't have happened. But Trump's idea is that there shouldn't be any independence. Everybody in the federal government should work for Trump, and Trump should be able to fire any one of them anytime he wants to. That's what he'd like to see happen. So that's what he did to USAID. He decided, no, it's not going to be an independent agency. It's going to be part of the Department of State. He's going to run by Marco Rubio, and he's going to put somebody in there. But then DOGE just went and said, we'll fire everybody, get rid of them all. And in many cases, they can't really fire them. They're still civil service protection. So they put them on administrative leave. You know what that means? It means they keep getting paid, but they stay home. They fired a whole bunch of people in the Department of Energy. And then the guys came back and said, well, don't you know the Department of Energy is the people who maintain our nuclear weapons stockpiles? You just fired the guys that are keeping our nukes from deteriorating and blowing up. And they said immediately, oh, we got to rehire these guys. So, it's just like a bull in a china shop. It's terrible. So how does that all relate to Project 2025? Well, what Project 2025 is a wish list of all the things, all the right-wing people, crazies, all the right-wing people would like to see happen, such as privatizing Social Security, such as ending the Department of Education, such as ending all DEI operations. When you get down to the bottom line here, that's what's going on here. There's all kinds of stuff in here that could never get through Congress. And the whole issue here is that the right knows they'll never get what they want through democracy, through legislation, through Congress. We've got court cases up the wazoo. He's saying he'll obey, maybe he will, maybe he won't. Congress has stepped up. I mean, to me, the key here is Republican legislators have to decide they're gonna oppose Trump, and they'll only decide they're gonna oppose Trump if MAGA voters get fed up. Okay, so well, Congress is the key to this. If you have, our families are spread across the nation now. I had a job in Texas for 15 years. I could have chosen to vote there. If you have family and friends in red states, tell them they got to lean on their legislators. And if you find anybody on the other side who expresses to you, my son just got fired. He works for the NOAA. He helps track hurricanes, so we know where the hurricanes are going to come in. Or my wife lost her job, or any complaint you hear from a MAGA, never say I told you so.
Oh my God.
Say, I know it's hard, because I did tell them so. I gave the presentation about Project 2025 30 times before this election, saying how terrible it would be if they got in office. Don't say I told you so. Say, you're right. This is terrible. We got to find a way to stop this. Commiserate with them. Help them understand the way to stop it is for Congress to have some balls. And if we can get Congress to threaten him with impeachment or to impeach him before the Supreme Court makes him a dictator. That's the solution. We got to do it before he gets the Supreme Court to give him the powers that he wants. That's the bottom line. And I don't really have much else to say to that. I mean, there's a lot more stuff in here. Here's Robert Reich's 10 steps. 10 things we can do. We can protect the undocumented, the undocumented people that are working in your restaurants. Find ways to help protect these people. We need to protect the undocumented. We need to protect the LGBTQ members. We need to help protect our own officials. I mean, some officials, they're suing Chicago because of the policies it's described. If some official gets in trouble and needs a lawyer and can't afford it, we might have to do a crowdfunding thing to help this guy. We have to support and defend our officials, and we have to encourage our officials to speak out. I was so proud of our governor for what he said recently about how this is fascism. And it's important that our politicians, you got to encourage our politicians to talk more. The press doesn't, the press just reports news. And if the only news is what Trump has to say, that's all they report. But if our politicians are out there pounding the table about what's going on, that'll get reported more. We need our politicians to be out there pounding the table more. Participate in boycotts. I mean, there was a don't buy anything on Friday. Well, I did that, but I don't think that helps much, because if I don't buy something on Friday, I'll buy it on Saturday. But it's more important to not participate. I don't buy anything from Home Depot or Lowe's or most of those places, because most of those places give a lot of money to the right-wing people. Costco, I go to Costco. Costco is a good company. You look at the companies you patronize, and just stop doing business with people that are giving Trump money. Just stop it. There are people you can work with. Fund groups that are litigated. There's details on each of these, and I'm just trying to get through here quickly, but here are the groups that you want to fund. If you can afford to throw a few bucks to somebody, the ACLU, Citizens for Responsible Ethics, Center for Biological Diversity, the Environmental Defense Fund, SPLC, Common Cause. These are the people that are filing lawsuits, and they could use a few bucks to help fund that work. The other thing is encourage people to stop looking at Fox News and start looking at getting their news from good places. These are news sources that Robert Reich recommends. And once again, you all get these slides. Push for progressive measures in your local community. And vote for progressive measures. Vote for people that will support the kind of things we're talking about today. Vote for people that will support protecting our communities that are endangered. Encourage worker action. Encourage unionization. Unions are one of the big areas that have been filing lawsuits. Unions are almost always on the right side of things the way we look at things. This was not a landslide election. He does not have a huge mandate. This was a squeaker. He's got a tiny lead in the House. He can't get anything to the House without Democratic votes. He can't get past the filibuster in the Senate. The only thing he can get to the Senate is a budget bill, because he can do that without a filibuster. But he can't get a budget bill through the House. Yeah, we have deep problems, but that's why we can't give up. If we give up, he wins. We must never give up. It's a real crisis. It really is. Our democracy is in real danger. Act locally. Here in Chicago, you've got people on your side. You have friends and relatives in the suburbs. Tell them to adopt the same policies Chicago's adopting. You got friends and relatives in red states. Tell them they got to lean on Congress. Press our legislators. I think we should have to turn out and protest. I think there should be thousands of people in the streets. Tens of thousands.
Yep. Amen.
One last thing. When the dust settles in 4 or 5 years, we have to think about our Constitution. We have to think about what we need to change in our Constitution so this can't happen again. They say constitutional amendments are hard. Well, if you look at the history, they happen in clumps.
That's right.
Long time tax, nothing. And then all of a sudden, 3 or 4. Right after the Civil War, there were 3 or 4 to fix the problems that caused the Civil War. Right after this, in 3 or 4 years from now, we have an opportunity to get rid of the Electoral College and to make changes in our Constitution that will strengthen our democracy.